Welcome to another episode of Pilots Say What, where we hear what pilots have to say. That's how we like to start the episode off. If you've been here before, then you already know. My name is Zach, and today we're sitting with Preston. We're gonna go over some things. We're gonna kind of keep it casual, but I have some questions about maneuvering the plane and some ways of training. I mean, you just became a CFI, which means you just finished your flight training as a student here at Thrust Flight. So I have some good questions about what it's like to be a student and whatnot, just in case someone's listening and wanting to know more about what journey they may be stepping into if they do start their flight training. Before we get into anything, though, I'll give you an opportunity just to kind of tell us who you are and just briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely. My name's Preston.
Yeah.
Joined the program in February.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I've always loved planes. I'm always one of those guys where just you're talking, oh, what's that? What's that flying by? Looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
But never knew I wanted to do it as a career.
Absolutely.
So I went to college, went to Texas A&M, graduated in December, and then realized the career. So I got a degree in political science.
Okay.
And just did some internships, did some jobs, and realized, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So had some sit downs with the parents and realized we kind of came together and we're like, man, like, what do you like to do? And I kind of decided, I love planes. As far as work life balance, I'm a big fan of, when you put that parking brake on the plane, you go home, you're not taking work home with you.
Yeah.
I'm a big family guy, so I love that. Travel, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pay is always nice because, again, I'm a big believer in, big family guy. So giving the family, providing for them. So that's a huge plus. So, so that's how I got into aviation, and I found Thrust, and it's been awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, it seems like you kind of I don't know for sure, but what kind of research did you do beforehand? I mean, you seem like you had an expectation that there is nice work-life balance and things like that. So what did you do to find that kind of thing out?
Yeah, I know a Southwest pilot, an American guy, and they didn't tell me a whole lot, but I knew the Southwest guy. He was a captain. He was older, and I knew that guy was flying like 2-3 times a month.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of getting the hints of that as far as work-life balance. Of course, having to work to that point, but
Right.
Reddit.
Reddit.
Classic Reddit. I mean, all the links, you search it up, all the links are purple.
Yeah, exactly.
I clicked them all, read them all.
You already know, yeah.
Oh yeah. So honestly, that, and then land on Thrust. You kind of work your way through all the local flight schools, doing your research, going to Reddit, going to their websites, see what people are saying, and landed on Addison.
That's really cool. Yeah, it sounds like you did. Well, then you're telling me you did a little research and looked into some schools before you even got there. When you were younger, you say you kind of look up, you see the planes, you think they're interesting. I mean, were you looking into stuff when you were younger, or were you just thought it was cool from afar?
Man, when I was younger, I never really thought. I never really thought that's what I wanted to do. It's a fun fact. I was actually, for the longest time, probably until I was like 12 years old, terrified of planes.
Yeah.
Like, thought they're so cool, but I'd get on the plane and we take off, and every little noise, flaps retracting, the gear going up. I thought, they lower the power because they can't have that max climb. I was like, we're going down. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified. And then for some, as I got older, kind of. I never thought I'd be here. And eventually, I got older, grew out of that, and I was like, no, these things are.
What was the hardest part for you about flying, or learning how to fly?
I would say in the beginning, private was the hardest. It's the biggest learning curve.
Yeah.
So that was tough.
Yes.
And the way they structure it here are the stage checks are harder than your EOCs, which is perfect. It's how it should be.
Yeah.
And so with that learning curve, I did struggle in the beginning. Every stage check, I did not pass the first try. Got the second try.
Okay.
But that definitely, it starts leaning into some pressure. You're like, this is a lot harder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
But that's you start out, you don't really realize how they structure. You don't realize, hey, these are supposed to be harder than your EOC.
Yeah. And
so it was frustrating. It was you're like, this is way harder than I thought it'd be.
You're like, what did I just sign up for? I mean, you probably had that moment, right? Where like, whoa, wait a second, did I do the right thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to my EOC being like, man, here we go. Like, you got that stadium pulse going. Like, it's go time. And you pass because everything was harder than in the OC, and then it kind of then you just get it starts rolling, ball rolling, confidence starts going. You start realizing, oh, okay, I can do this.
Like
Things,
by that point, by the time you even get to your EOC, you successfully done like a takeoff and a landing
yeah,
and a couple other things. You've done
uh
some,
huh,
yeah. So I mean, it's not like you're. I mean, at some point you have to be like, oh, I'm flying a plane,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And so as it starts compounding, you start realizing how the program works. They make these hard, and then yeah, you just get more confidence. You
Mm.
start stage checks, you're starting, then you start passing stage checks, and then check rides EOC. So that's definitely a learning curve of realizing how it works.
Yeah.
And it's great that they do that because yeah, it makes your EOCs and check rides
And for
go smooth.
yeah, and just in case anyone who's listening or watching this on any of our video platforms, an EOC is end of course exam, basically thrust. And a lot of schools, well, I don't know about a lot of schools, but there are some schools, including thrust, that have examining authority, which allows us to pass people for their ratings in house without a DPE. So that's when you're saying EOC, just in
Yeah,
case some people,
yeah,
yeah, aren't paying attention or don't notice what that means. That's what it is.
hmm
So you got to ride with an EOC.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and they do a great job at that. They do a great job at making sure the ground portion is very thorough and extensive beforehand. So basically, they know when we send you off,
Hmm.
we have touched everything.
Yeah.
Like you are good to go. And then same with the flight.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna put you through everything. We're gonna put you through the hardest circumstances.
Hmm.
So then when you go to the EOC or check ride and they're just, I don't want to say bare minimum, but they're checking off just the things you need to check off for the check ride EOC.
Right. There's a checklist there. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's easier than when they put you through in the stage check. So they do a great job of that. And
Okay.
that's a huge perk.
Is there any maneuvers since maybe even private or even later on that maybe you're like, oh man, that was a tough one for me to get down, even whether it's just even if it's just a regular landing, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone on here says the same thing, but it's those landings, specifically the performance landings,
yeah.
because you know how to do them, you know the steps, you know everything to do.
Uh-huh.
But there's just those environmental factors that get you a
Mm.
little nervous, like
Yeah.
oh man, a little bit of a crosswind,
Yeah.
it's gusting a little bit. I could have everything right, and then gust,
Yep.
and kind of maybe it drops me on my point a little sooner.
Yeah.
So it's just
Adjusting and learn. Yeah.
adjusting, and with the hours and stuff that comes, you start to realize what happens, what the plane does, during certain things like that.
What are some of the things that do make it hard? So like weather, like a crosswind.
Uh-huh.
Is there something else that kind of tends to throw you off or tends to throw other people off?
Really just dealing with the weather aspects, really just setting it up first, like when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
The comms add a little bit of an aspect, because you're
Hmm.
having to, hey, left downwind, hey, left base, hey, final, just making sure you get those in at the same time
Hmm.
while you're setting yourself up, right? Adding the flaps, the RPM settings. As
Hmm.
as it goes on, you get used to it, you free up some mental capacity. So it, kind of, what do they call it? The flow state. Kind of get in your flow state. So
Mm.
by the time you're on final, you kind of realize, and then from there, it starts to become it's repetition and understanding what the plane's going to want to do at this certain angle.
Hmm.
Hey, I know I have a headwind here. I'm going to get a little slower. I need a little more stuff like that. You start to
Start to pick up on. Was there anything that made it easier for you other than, would you just say, experience?
yeah, I'd say experience, but I would say one of my biggest say light bulbs
Hmm.
was when an instructor, he's for short fields. Um, I guess two things: short fields and soft fields.
Hmm.
Those are the biggest struggle ones.
Hmm.
Power off 180s is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
That's power off 180s is just straight up repetition.
Yeah.
Fuel the airplane.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd say for short fields is realizing two things can confirm you hitting your point. If you have your aiming point and you have your airspeed.
Hmm.
If you hit your aiming point at your desired airspeed, for us 61, you'll hit your point.
Hmm.
Mind you that you flare correctly, you'll hit your point.
Hmm.
So that's a big thing, that big light bulb for me. That as soon I know that when I'm on that final, I'm doing a short field. I'm looking at my airspeed and I'm looking at my aiming point. Am I on the aiming point and am I at 61? I'm money.
Awesome. There, yeah, I like to ask that question because we've talked about chair flying and simulator flying, like flying in the simulator and then real flying, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's reasons to do each of them. Of course, we know why you need to fly, but what is a reason? Did you ever do any chair flying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
And what were you doing that for? Like, what was that helpful with?
For me, I like to use it for just running through maneuvers.
Yeah.
So I would pretend like I'm starting on the ground in Addison. Yeah, pretend. All right, let me see a soft field. Okay, cool. Flaps 25, 50 feet, 200 feet, all that running through all that stuff in my head to where
Mhm.
it's, I'm not flying it, but in my head again, everything that you got to do.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Being able to have it memorized is helpful. And
Yeah.
then for the simulator,
hmm
how do we use the simulators in our training? Is it a part of the like? Is it just kind of as you need it, or
Yeah.
is it always a part of the process for each rating? How does that work?
Yeah. Each rating has a required amount of sim time.
Uh-huh. How does it compare to
Yeah.
flying though? Like, I mean, is it? Do you feel like it really a lot of it translates? I mean, obviously it's not the same thing,
Yeah.
but
The feel's completely different. It's funny. People, I remember when I first started and you get in the sim and it's the hardest thing you've ever done.
right.
And you're freaking out. You're like, holy crap. What did I get myself into? I could not hold my
Yep.
altitude. And everyone tells you like, dude, completely different than plane.
Yeah.
And to quell anyone's fears, that they're right. It is completely different. So it
Yeah.
feels different.
Yeah.
The plane, I feel like it's easier to fly. The great thing about the sim though is it allows you to get higher quality reps.
Mm.
The instructor can sit there and they can teleport you to a location. So, like for example, doing instrument approaches, you don't have to you don't have to fly all the way back around to get back into the
Mhm.
the on the final or on the approach.
Yeah.
They can go, cool, you did it. Let me put you right back here. And
Yes.
keep doing it over and over and over and just build that muscle memory. That's the great thing about the sim.
Yeah, that's great. And that way you can kind of figure out that you can figure out the issues on the ground rather
Yeah.
than being in the air and having to, like you said, not waste so much time, but use so much time just to do a couple of different landings,
Uh-huh.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many landings do you usually go for? About 2 hours at a time, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
For some practice flying. How many landings can you practice here at the Addison Airport in that amount of time?
Oh man. Well, when you take off out of Addison, and let's say most of the time, um, I'll use like a private student. You go to Mesquite to do your landings.
Okay.
I'd say you could get a good 7 to 8,
Oh,
maybe
nice.
10 on a good day if you're really sitting there beating up the pattern.
Yeah.
I remember one day there was a day where there was some all right weather, but it kind of just deterred some people from flying, and so
Mhm.
me and my instructor were able to request, can we stay in the pattern here at Addison?
Yeah.
23 landings
Oh, that's
at
crazy.
Addison. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you that's your goal, you can get a lot of landings in.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were able to get your reps in,
Yeah.
like you said.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of landings. Do you feel like that was a moment for you to like? You feel like you got a lot of improvement out of that?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely start to because there's like if you mess up on one, you've got a ton more after that to kind of refine
exactly.
the feel.
Yeah. Well, I know you talked about the power off 180. This is different, but I just would like to ask: is the stall horn like a scary thing for new students? Like, do you hear
Yeah.
that when you first go off? And you're like, oh, did I do it? Is that supposed to sound like that? I mean,
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, you've never heard it before, so it definitely has a little, "Oh, are
yeah,
we about to drop out of the sky?"
yeah,
And again, as time go I mean, I'll never forget, yeah, my instructor for, "You wanna try stalls?" And you're like, like,
yeah,
yeah." Um, oh, man, and then as you start to do them, yeah, you start to realize, oh, yeah, once you realize what to do and
yeah.
how to recover, um, yeah, oh,
It just
no
seems like it's like
problem.
a misconception that if the stall horn goes off, like that you're done for.
Yeah, no, not at
Some
all.
people, it's like it's just like a warning, and it's something that you kind of get used to, actually, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
yeah.
stall warning's just a warning letting you know, like, "Hey, man, if if you're not training, you should probably think about lowering
Yeah.
your nose a little bit."
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But if you are training, it's probably like you should probably think about raising that nose up a little more,
yeah.
depending on what, stall you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And I don't know. There's different stalls?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that something you practice at each rating? Depending on which rating you're at, you're doing a different stall.
Yeah, so, yeah, private, you got your main, you got your power off stall, um,
Hmm.
and then your power on stall, and then you get to commercial, you get your accelerated stall, and then when you get to CFI, you get, yeah, your trim stall, secondary stall, and your cross-controlled
And
stall.
those are all things you had to practice and be familiar with, just in case there was a
Mhm.
situation where that kind of happens, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. That's cool. Um, okay, well, I kind of want to dive into like, so you're a student,
Mhm.
and it's a little tough at times. Like
Yeah.
you said, at first it's really tough, and you get the momentum. I mean, you're getting to around your maybe your commercial, like
Mhm.
because you go through instrument. Actually, this just can I ask you about that? What
Yeah.
was instrument like coming out of Private's obviously really tough.
Yeah.
How did instrument feel for you?
Oh man, probably the same as everyone, man. It's just it's overwhelming as
Yeah.
far as the amount of information you
Yeah.
have to intake. It's,
Yeah.
when you first have to learn holds,
Hmm.
that wrapping your mind around that is tough.
Yeah.
Um, Wrapping your mind around,
I've heard holds is like a hard.
oh,
Well,
oh
who was I
yeah,
talking to? I think it was maybe last week. It was recently. I don't know why holds sound so daunting. Like, what is
yeah.
it about a hold that is difficult?
Oh, man, it's just like they're just so intricate sometimes, and when
Uh-huh.
it's your first time seeing them, you're here. Hold east on the 094 radio at 28 DME.
Mm.
Left turns only. Expect further clearance, and all these things. You're in the air, and you're just trying to picture it, and you're like, what the heck do you want me to do? Now
Yeah.
I don't even know what you want me to do. Now I have to program it.
Yeah.
So one thing that helped me there is um, going over on the ground.
Hmm.
It's just like the sim. If you just take out the stress of being in the plane
Uh
and
huh.
let's just go through on the ground, you could start to conceptualize it.
Hmm.
Once you kind of start doing that, instrument becomes that much easier.
Yeah.
So definitely taking the time on the ground to almost backseat or not backseat, like chair fly with your instructor.
Uh huh.
Like they can pull up an instrument approach plate and go, imagine that we're right here. This is what we're going to do.
Hmm.
Imagine I ask you to do a hold. This is what we're going to do. And you kind of can start to conceptualize that. So when you're in the air and they ask you, muscle memory, flow
Yeah.
state.
And you can say it right. Is it like you have to relearn that sort of procedure every time you go to a new airport, or does some of that transfer over no matter what airport you go to?
It transfers over for
Yeah.
sure. The only thing you're getting used to, if as far as going to a different airport, is what are the different altitude restrictions? What's this decision altitude compared to this
Mm.
one? But they're all the same as far as procedure.
And so it's
Just
the
different.
comms that are a little overwhelming in that situation, probably too, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like because you're trying to make sure you do whatever they're telling you to do.
Yeah.
And dang, did you do anything to practice your comms?
I kind of got better at them just by listening to my instructor
Oh,
over and
okay.
over. I did listen to some,
Hmm.
like on the drive to thrust and
Yeah.
on the drive back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay.
but that one's just kind of just repetition. Will get once you start. You don't want expectation bias, so
Mm.
but again, you do start to learn what they're gonna say when you call up
Right.
regional, and you can expect. They're gonna give you a squawk code. You kind of start to anticipate more. Maybe better is a better word.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, and but also it seems like you get familiar with what kind of things what could be asked of you
Uh huh.
and are normal to be asked of you, and like you said, no expectation bias, but more so, like when I get into a new job or I'm learning about something new, it's always the lingo that throws me off, and I don't know how to
Yeah.
communicate well in that
Yeah.
situation. But like you said, you were listening to your instructor when you were
Mhm.
flying already. You were already thinking about that. It sounds like so.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
good. Um, I wanted to ask you a little bit. Oh, so now that you're starting CFI, what do you think is going to benefit you the most going into being a CFI? Yeah.
Man, I think for me, being able to put myself in their shoes,
Hmm.
as far as I did struggle with, it's a big learning curve. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
difficult. It's nerve wracking.
Hmm.
There's a lot of performance standards, yeah, that relies on you.
Yeah.
I mean, how you perform. So putting myself in those shoes and realizing, hey, they're stressed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best to do what I can do
Hmm.
to alleviate some of that. So
Yeah.
whatever that may be, finding out what works for them, getting on their level, um, big overarching term, but being chill, right?
Yeah.
Like just kind of,
Yeah.
but still teach them and holding them to standards, but kind of realizing where they're at mentally.
Right. And it's because you're creating like an environment conducive to learning.
Yeah,
In that way,
yeah,
you're a leader. Yeah,
exactly.
you're a leader in that situation. It sounds
Yeah.
like. Uh, Well, did you know that you were gonna have to be a CFI, or you don't have to, but did you know that it's typically a part of becoming a pilot?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, is that something you knew from the jump, and then going into it, that's just something you anticipated?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. You kind of forget that there's other options out there because you kind of you hear it so much at CFI, and it's true. It's the easiest way to get your 1500, and it's the best because if you
yeah.
can teach something,
Hmm.
then you know it well.
Do you plan on? I mean, do you have any plans for getting to your 1500 and then maybe trying something new? Do you have plans? that way? I know you're just now starting being a CFI though, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, airline world would be great.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not really too sure. Honestly, I'm just very thankful to be um I say almost done. I still have multi left, but pretty much done.
Yes.
I'm just thankful to be done, and I love thrust. I'm excited to be here. Like I love the culture, and um, I was talking to some guys the other day. I was like, I could totally see myself staying here past the 1500, and
Right.
just because I'm a big like I like whatever I do, I like to be fulfilled.
Mhm.
I feel like it. This is a very fulfilling job to take a
Mm.
student from zero, from A to B, and to
Yeah.
watch them succeed. I know that I'm gonna love that, and so I can see myself staying past and being here for a little longer. And airlines, they're always gonna be there,
Right.
And the end of the day, they're always gonna be there. And the more you stay here, the more hours you're gonna get anyway.
Right.
So the more attractive you're gonna be. So again, it's
Mhm.
just like this kind of win-win situation.
Right, and people, I've had, maybe a few CFIs on here now where I had them on right when they started,
Uh huh.
and they come back in, and then they've had some a little more time under the belt as a CFI, they've already passed some students, and I've had a lot of experienced CFIs too, but they always talk about how much they evolve as a pilot
Hmm.
by just being a CFI,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it would be almost a missed opportunity to not take it full advantage of being a CFI.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I like that you said that it's fulfilling. A lot of people, it sounds like there's a lot of like ideas out there that some people are CFIs just to get their hours, and
Uh huh.
obviously it is one of the best ways to get your hours.
Yeah.
But most of the time when I talk to CFIs, they seem to really enjoy doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Thrust does a great job too at finding those people that do legitimately care about the
Mm,
student success. I mean, I feel like I haven't been on the side of interviewing, but I bet that's a quality they look for, and they do a
mhm.
good job at finding. Because everyone at Thrust, you talk to them, and they will take time out of their day to make sure you're succeeding or whatever.
Maybe it's not thrust. I don't know. I don't know what it's like at the other schools, but I'm
Hmm.
curious why there's such a strong culture. Like a lot of companies that I've worked at
Yeah,
have tried to do that and they can't.
yeah,
You know,
hmm,
but maybe it's just the aviation in general. People love
yeah.
flying. Everyone loves flying.
Yeah, I think it's that shared bond. I think Thrust has a um, very well balanced, but like an easygoing culture, but well balanced with it's a flight school. You gotta be safe on stuff,
Right.
but they balance it well with being easygoing as far as like it's an open door policy.
Yeah.
Um, you can talk to anyone. You don't you're not going to be if you have a question. I had to really step out of my comfort zone. Uh, in college, I was always that kind of back row, not asking questions in class, but
Yeah.
flight school, it's really success comes down to you. So I had to get out of my comfort zone
Mm.
and ask more questions than usual.
Yeah.
And that fear always stemmed from being judged. Oh, this guy doesn't know what's this guy doing,
Right.
and Thrust did a great job at that. No question was too dumb. No question was
Right.
too much, and people would take out paper out of the notebooks and start drawing. Take Go an extra mile to show me what they're teaching.
That goes a
I'm
long way.
not even their student, and they would So
Okay.
I feel like that aspect is definitely what makes Thrust a great culture as far as yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool to hear. You say like the success comes down to you. Like and you're using that as an example to say like, oh, you're taking the proactive step to like
Yeah.
reach out and talk to people.
Hmm.
What's the alternative though? I mean, did you have to realize you're like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to just coast here.
Yeah.
Like what's the alternative? Is it trying to sit back and figure everything out on your own? I mean, does that sound even
Yeah.
like a possible approach?
For me, no.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are gonna watch this, so shout out mom and dad. They raised me. They raised me with the mindset of productivity and working for it. So I definitely came in here knowing like what I wanted and going for it.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a pattern as far as um, you can get through this program fast,
Mhm.
but it does come down to you. There's a personal responsibility on
Mhm.
you to,
Mm.
and thrust will still get you through faster than anywhere else. But if you want to get through faster than that, when they're advertising as far as, hey, we can hum you through this program, there does come some personal responsibility as far as I'm sure you've heard 100 times on this
Yeah.
podcast, but get those writtens done.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Don't wait to get those writtens done. Get them done
Yeah.
immediately. Don't that's such an easy roadblock to hop over.
Exactly.
Um, Study. Like this is a full-time job.
Do you feel like people make excuses about things like that? I mean, you can't. I don't want you to necessarily throw anyone under the bus,
Mhm.
but it's and you're young too, right? There's a lot of young people here. Um, I'm wondering though, because when I was younger,
Yeah.
I'm not that old. I mean, I'm 29.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But I just remember being younger, not really realizing what it meant to be proactive. To be honest
Uh-huh.
with you, and I thought that if I signed up for something, they're supposed to walk me through it.
Yeah.
And not that I necessarily wanted to be babied, but I was like, hey, like I don't know,
Mhm.
and so I
Yeah.
used to think like that. And I don't feel like that gets you very far though. At some
No.
point, you have to still come to the conclusion that it's going to be on me.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, and that, yeah, I definitely there's a parallel to that for who gets through faster and who gets through
Maybe not as fast.
not as fast. Is the people who get through faster are the ones that are proactive.
Mhm.
They treat this as a 9 to 5. They don't wait for things to come to them.
Yes.
They go to it. They know I have a stage check coming up. They're
Mhm.
asking people around, what do I need to start looking for this stage check?
Yeah.
Maybe they already know who their stage check person is. What does he like to ask?
Mhm.
They're not just showing up um, unprepared. They're not
Yeah.
showing up. What's he gonna ask? They're taking everything into their
Yeah.
own hands.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not a situation where you, it's not a situation where you just, like, clock in, clock out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's well beyond that. It's going home and studying as well.
It seems like we do a good job at not I mean, pilots seem to be really into what they're doing anyways,
Uh huh. Yeah.
so why would they?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
why would they, like, just clock in and clock out? I mean, it doesn't seem like the kind of place to do that.
Mm,
Did you knew that this was gonna be full-time, right? When you
yeah.
started as a student?
Oh
What
yeah. Absolutely.
did that not come in I should have asked that earlier, to be honest with you. Um, does that not come into play? You just finished college, right?
Yeah.
And then you're thinking,
Mm.
"I'm gonna go back to school," pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like?
It definitely did. It was like, oh man, more school. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like a different school.
Mhm.
It's not your professor giving you an essay you gotta do.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta research. No, like flight school is stressful. It's hard. You gotta earn it, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You're flying a plane. Like, yeah, you put in the work. Yes, not everyone likes to study. Um, but dude, it's fun. And there's something cool about. I remember I always complained about college was, dude, I'm studying this crap that I'm never gonna use. I'm
Uh-huh.
never gonna use this. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But when you're studying for flight school, you are gonna use this. You when
Yeah.
you one day when you're carrying 300 passengers in the back, you're gonna be like, man, I remember that day when I was sitting at home learning how an ILS works,
Yeah.
and I'm sure glad I really dove into it because here I am flying,
Uh-huh.
these 300 passengers in. They're relying on my knowledge on how this works,
Yeah,
and so the
absolutely.
stuff you're learning and studying really it means something. So it makes it easier
Mm.
for sure.
It makes sense if you're gonna be flying a plane that you gotta
Yeah,
know what you're talking about.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of beating in my head
Yeah.
too at school and hearing people say and airline pilots being like, you know, you're constantly learning. That
Yeah.
this isn't just a hey, you've graduated, cool, like you're done learning. No, like
Yeah.
it's a serious profession. Like you're gonna be having passengers. So you always need to be learning, always need to be staying on top of things, evolving, taking it seriously, and
Yeah.
improving. So kind
Yeah.
of realizing that it's a profession now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's cool. That's cool. I think it took me a long time to feel like I was really like engaged in my work.
yeah,
When I was younger, I was like, man, I don't know what the point of this all of this really is. So that's cool to be able to do that.
yeah,
Um, I like that about pilots. I think that's what I've
yeah,
been learning.
yeah. No, it's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool. It's a great community.
yeah. You said something earlier when we got to. I wanted to ask you about uh, since you're fresh out of
Yeah.
the training portion of it. Of course, you still need to get your multi-use head right.
Uh huh.
Uh, like, is there maybe three things off the top of your head, like just like straight points that would be something you would give to someone starting flight training as
Mhm.
advice?
Number one, everyone's gonna say it. Get your writtens done.
Yep.
There's honestly, whether this is harsh or not, there's really no excuse. I mean, you got the study tools, you've got the time, you can really crank those out quick. Um,
And why is that one of your pieces of advice?
because Edis, if you don't have your writtens done, you can't fly.
Okay.
And that is just such an easy hurdle to get out of the way. It is
Yeah.
just a written test.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah.
And a tip for that is, man, if you feel yourself procrastinating, schedule the test.
Yeah.
Like
Just lock the
it's
date in.
Monday, and I'm not getting this done. Schedule it Thursday. you better have it done by then because it's scheduled Thursday.
Yeah.
That's a tip for that.
Yeah.
Maybe second one would be, as far as nerves go,
Mhm.
your instructor wouldn't send you to the stage check if they didn't feel you were ready.
Mm.
So know that you are ready. Know that you're always going to be a little bit nervous. It means that you care, that you're nervous,
Mhm.
and know that nerves are a part of it,
Yeah.
and that you're always going to feel that you're less prepared than you actually are.
Mhm.
Every check ride I've gotten out of, at USC I've gotten out of, I've been blessed to feel, oh wow, I was way more prepared than I thought I was.
Yeah.
Compared to when I went into it, again, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah.
You are,
Yeah.
and then always and know if you fail, the world keeps spinning.
Yeah.
The world keeps spinning, and just keep going. It is not the end of the world.
Mm.
That's a big advice I'd give is failures are not the end of the world.
Yeah.
That it is a great moment to realize that to keep. I have notes from my first stage check failure.
Oh, that's
Let
great.
me pull. I actually want to pull it out.
Yeah.
Uh,
I take a lot of notes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. March 27th. I failed my stage check my first time, and it hit me. But it was a huge moment of growth, and it definitely was so yeah. I said never fail again. Do everything in every flight from now on as far as BPIC, because at that time, excuse me.
Mhm.
At that time, my training, I was kind of very hands off, and let me just watch my instructor. But I gotta really,
You realize how much you didn't know in that moment,
yeah.
and
So
you're
I
like,
gotta really start being proactive here. Hey, let me try flying back into Addison.
yeah, yeah,
Advocate for yourself. You know when you're ready. Like if you don't feel like you're ready for a stage check, maybe ask for one more flight. Stuff like that. Be confident in yourself. You know what to do. And then just knowing that be prepared and everything. So just kind of showing that like
that's how you know that's if you do those things, then you can know that you're ready.
yeah,
It's kind of to
exactly.
your point,
Yeah.
to your second point being know that you're ready, you're confident, be confident, especially if your instructor sends you to your stage check or your EOC. It's because they're confident in you. So
Yeah.
trust the process, but in order to be able to trust the process, you got to do some of those things you just said, right?
Yeah.
Like it really clicks at that moment.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. So I mean, yeah, for that point is those failures. The world keeps spinning. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean you're never gonna be an airline pilot. No, like they're gonna understand.
yeah,
People fail, and to sum that up, just to show like that was a learning moment for me. I failed. I used that moment of like, hey, it was a punch of the gut. What are we gonna do different? Use it as that, and you will become a better pilot every time.
yeah,
My
great.
third point, probably just be proactive. Don't let things come to you.
Yeah.
Understand where you're at in the program. Be in constant communication with your instructor. Anticipate what you gotta do. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of things throughout the episode so far. I mean, I'd like to hear that you're starting your journey as a CFI. I mean, it sounds like you're pretty excited about really diving in and helping out students. Having
Yeah.
had already been a student here at Thrust,
Yeah.
so maybe we'll have you again soon, or maybe in a couple months when you've got a couple of primary students or students under your belt.
Yeah.
That'll be
Absolutely.
cool to hear about, actually.
Yeah.
But again, I appreciate you joining us. We do this every week. So if you're listening at home, feel free to check in every week. If you're still here, go ahead and leave some questions in the comment section if you have any. We'd love to answer those. Otherwise, give us a like. And even hit that subscribe button. That really helps us out. If you're listening on a platform like Spotify or Apple Music, that of course that helps us out too. And we're gonna always continue to aim to get the perspective of students, CFIs, and pilots on this podcast. So we'll see you guys next time on the next episode of Pilots Say What.